Welcome to the Monopoly Control Your Space or Be Dominated podcast. I am your host, Benjamin Ngwani, and author of the book of which this podcast is about. Today we're going to discuss how to dominate your problems. So sit tight and get monopolized. You see, everyone got problems, no matter how rich or happy they look like. We all got problems. We may not look like our problems, but trust me when I say this. We are all battling with our own problems. So don't go judging people because of where they are in life or how they act. Some people are still dealing with their past traumas, while you might be facing a problem of deciding what kind of a car you want to buy. We don't all start the same in life, and because of that, our problems will never be the same. But either way, we all got to deal with problems in front of us. So how is it that we all got problems? Well, a problem can be classified as a challenge, issue, or trouble. And these are things that we constantly face every day because either we caused it or it simply happened. But either way, life is full of problems. No one goes through life without experiencing problems. And if you hate problems, then you got a problem. Usually people who hate problems also hate the idea of dealing with their own problems. As a result, they always run away from their problems. But the truth is, you can never outrun your problems. You have to face your problems before you can solve them. But guess what? A lot of people are unwilling to face their problems, even if they are the root cause for the problem. But let me ask you this. If your problems catch up with you, how will you solve your problems when you can't even face them? When you can't even acknowledge that you got problems? You see, a problem acknowledged is half solved. No matter how bad the problem looks like, you got to acknowledge it. If you caused it, accept it. If it wasn't caused by you, but it's your problem now, then you got to deal with it. In all my life, I've never met anyone who loves their problems because some problems are so hard to deal with. But if problems can be classified as a challenge, issue, or trouble, then this means that there are different types of problems, good and bad problems, problems that we inherit, problems caused by other people, problems that we cause, and problems that happen unexpectedly. But the fact is, when that problem is in front of you, it is yours to deal with. So how can we dominate our problems when there are so many of them in our lives? Well, sometimes you got to choose what kind of problems you want to deal with in your life, because not all problems are meant to be solved. And to do that, you have to know and choose what kind of life you want to live. You got to have a vision. When you have a vision, you know what kind of problems you are going to face ahead of time. When you have a vision, you are able to prepare for what is to come because you invite the challenge. You don't find yourself in a situation. You create the situation in order to become what you want to become and attain what you want to attain. I don't have a problem of boredom like everyone else because if I'm not working to provide for my family, I'm working to upskill myself in order to become better at making my podcast and writing books. And if I'm not doing that either, then I'm working on my health, relationships, spiritual life, mental growth, and many more things that I hold dear. I am in control of my problems because I am in control of my destiny. And when I fail to solve some of my problems, I don't give up. I simply find other ways to solve those problems because solving those problems is important to me. That's how you dominate your problems. That's how you limit the number of problems you got to face in your life. Some of you got a lot of problems in your lives because you don't know what you're doing with your lives. Everyone got excess in your life because you don't have a vision. If you don't know where you're going in life, you will always find yourself sharing a path with other people. And some of those people got problems you were never meant to encounter. But since you are with them, some of their problems become your problems. That's why there are some people who weren't drinkers before, but because of their surroundings, they became alcoholics and it killed them. But the people who introduced them to alcohol are still alive and well. You see, when you have a vision, You don't just let anyone in your life. You don't just associate yourself with people, but rather you move with people who are facing the same kind of problems you are facing. The problem of having to buy a house before you turn 30. The problem of having to make your first million in cash. Haven't you ever noticed how people with the same problems hang out together and talk about their problems? When you hear your friends or partner talk about their problems, can you relate? Are they going through stuff that is relevant to you? Stuff that you can learn from? Or are they going through some stuff, just stuff, Aren't you tired of going through stuff? Don't you want to spice up your life and set challenges that you want to overcome, like going on a vacation twice a year? Wouldn't that be a nice problem to deal with? After all, the challenge would only arise when you got to save money and sacrifice going out and stay indoors sometimes. But that's a problem you can deal with, isn't it? That's a problem that doesn't get your high blood pressure up, wouldn't you agree? So now that you know that you don't have to go through what you're going through, but you can choose what you want to go through, what are you going to do about it? The fact that you are listening to this podcast means that you had to hear this. There's over 8 billion people in this world, but this episode of my podcast made it in front of you. It's not a coincidence. It's simply timing, which means that it's time for you to dictate what kind of problems you want to have in your life. If we have to learn to live with our problems, we might as well choose what kind of problems we want to live with. Wouldn't you agree? So what kind of problems are you willing to embrace? We all got issues. These are problems we didn't ask for, but we inherited through bad parenting, toxic relationships, and unplanned adventures. And by unplanned adventure, I mean when you do stuff just for the fun of it, but then it ends up raising multiple consequences. That's enough to cause trauma in our lives. So if you got issues in your life, ask yourself this: what are those issues hindering you from? If they are hindering you from pursuing what you want, then you got to deal with them. Because if you don't, then you will never have anything you want in life. But if the issues you have don't hinder you from anything, then teach yourself to live with them and rather focus on problems that need solving. If you do this, you will be happy with your life. A lot of people aren't happy with their lives. They wish they could trade their lives for other people's lives simply because they don't want to deal with their own problems. And it's not like they cannot solve their own problems, but they'll rather have other people solve it for them. But that kind of attitude won't take you anywhere in life. There are only a few skills that are important to learn in this world, and problem solving is one of them. If you cannot solve your problems will control you and they will limit you. So learn to identify your problems in life, the ones that you need to solve and the ones you need to live with. For instance, you can't change your core traits. If you are stubborn, you better accept that you are stubborn. But you got to have a handle on your stubbornness, because you don't have to be stubborn all the time. In some cases, you have to be understanding, and in some situations, you have to be stubborn and embrace your own personal traits. I remember when COVID came, COVID took away everything I had and left me with nothing. But I refused to give up because of my stubbornness. I asked for help where it was due. I raised myself up when I had to, and I prayed to God for guidance when I didn't know what to do. And little by little, I remembered where I was going in the first place, because sometimes when life hits you hard, you can forget your own identity. And when you forget your own identity, you forget what you were doing and where you were going. So trust me when I say this, in this life, you need to believe in something bigger than yourself if you want to survive and flourish. These are nuggets I'm giving you in order to take control of your life. However, I'm not going to tell you that this is the first step and second step you need to take in order to be in control of your life. You got to listen and take notes on your own and be open to learning on your own. You see, most of us have been through a lot for a long time and we've given up on a better future. But I want to tell you this: if you are alive, you still got something to live for. There's a hope and a future for you. But you got to believe that there is a future for you and that you are worthy of that future. If you do that, what else is there to stop you from making that future a reality? So what? You got problems. We all got problems. But sometimes we got to put aside our own problems and just focus on getting what we want. You can't always let your problems prevent you from getting what you want. You might be going through financial problems, but if you are craving that McDonald's, go get it. Don't depress yourself any further. You not getting it won't make the situation any better. But when you get that McDonald's, for that moment, you forget about all your problems and remember how it feels like when you don't have financial problems. And at that point, that feeling will ignite a spark inside of you, a spark that will lead you to act because you know that you will feel better once you solve that problem. In other words, your problems shouldn't always be the center of attention in your life. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on a lot of things because your mind is preoccupied by problems. So teach yourself to let go sometimes and just live for the moment. You might not get another moment, another chance to do what you wanted to do. People who died had plans. Some of them had plans of what they wanted to do once they do this, once that is done, and they didn't live through to do those things. So just because you're going through something doesn't mean you got to put your life on hold. Just because you're still figuring out a way to solve your problems don't mean you got to neglect everything else. You are still alive, aren't you? So why aren't you living? Do you know that solving a problem doesn't mean that you will always get what you want in the end? There is people who hated being single and saw it as a problem, and now they wish they were single again. Solving a problem might look promising in the end, but some things were never meant to be solved because there aren't problems in the first place. We just perceive them as problems because of the influence we get from society. There are still people who believe everything they see on social media. People who take everything they hear serious without realizing that they got a problem. As a result, they are working on things that do not need to be changed, while everything that needs to be changed in their lives remains the same. If this is you I'm describing, then you need to do something about your life. You got to open up to correcting the way you see and interpret things, because perception plays a very vital role in our lives and how we deal with our problems. If your perception is misplaced, then everything in your life is misplaced. So let me ask you this. When you wake up, what do you see? Do you see an opportunity that you have another chance at life? Or do you see your problems? Whatever answer you give, that should tell you where you are in life. So until the next episode, listen to this podcast at least 10 times. Let it sink in. Take what you need and start applying it. If not now, then when?